You do need to know. Just as Tom Petty needs to know, you Santa Claritans need to know. To be in the know, it's the Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220, with the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John. Chris Burke sitting in for John this week.
And we're talking to Rob Heller, agent extraordinaire for many, many years, currently with WME, William Morris Endeavor. We were talking a little, well, Rob, you want to...
Yeah. Rob, I have to admit I'm a little bit older than Chris here, and I remember the Smothers Brothers when I was a kid, and I thought they were hilarious. I remember watching their show, when they used to be on Ed Sullivan and all those shows, right? And Johnny Carson. And
had their own series for many years.
Right. And what are those guys doing these days?
Actually, it's never ending. They're basically retired. Tom decided to go off the road about 5 years ago, and as you asked the question, Jimmy Fallon's people just recently called and said what you said. I remember the Smothers Brothers and loved the Smothers Brothers, and Jimmy just invited them to appear on the Tonight Show, on the new Tonight Show with him. And I've been talking to Tom and Dick about the possibility of doing so. So there's always that, but they themselves are retired. But when you think about some of those acts from yesteryear, that you remember growing up with, so many of them actually are still around today, whether it's Liza Minnelli, Aretha Franklin. I mentioned Smokey Robinson. I know not quite as old, but Chris's client, Kenny Loggins. And you have a tendency, Don Rickles, to, what was there so many years ago is still around today.
Right.
Well, that's a perfect transition, because, Rob, I wanted to let our listeners know a little bit more about the artists you represent or represented. Some have passed away. I mean, we worked for years with the Righteous Brothers, and, list a couple more.
Well, you're bound to lose clients along the way for one reason or another, whether they leave or whether, unfortunately, Bobby Hatfield dies, and that was a wonderful franchise. Every time they went on stage, it was magic with the Righteous Brothers, and Bill Medley's still around working. He's a wonderful artist. Donna Summer was a client for many years, and unfortunately, she passed away, it happens. Don Rickles remains a client. Neil Sedaka is a client of ours.
Okay, so that's also a good transition, Rob. Let's talk about today. What are you doing today? What kind of artists are you working with, and what special projects are happening?
Well, first off, what comes to mind, I'm very thrilled to continue to be involved with Diana Krall, who is a wonderful artist and more contemporary than some of those who we're talking about, who has a new album coming out in September. It's going to be quite a bit different, and she continues to reinvent herself, and I'm fortunate to have an artist like that who plays so many wonderful venues that does capacity business. So we expect to tour late this year and into next year. We'll get involved. Frank Sinatra Jr. is another artist that we have a project with called Sinatra Sings Sinatra. Next year is the 100th anniversary, this Sinatra Centennial. And we have a show that is really based on the wonderful music that Sinatra did, with the charts replicated with the orchestra, with Frank Sinatra Jr. called As I Remember It. So that, as well as Smokey Robinson, has a new album coming out in September.
Wow!
And
you couldn't retire if you wanted to.
And it's a wonderful signature hits duets album that Smokey's doing with some names that we're not at liberty to talk about yet, but he's starting to do some promo and all that, and that's the kind of stuff that keeps us busy and keeps us into it. And while we show up most days to do what we do.
Hey, Rob, do you ever sit in the meetings with Chris and the other agents and they start throwing out their acts and you just kind of scratch your head at some of the names of the acts and who they are? And
the question itself makes both Chris and I smile.
Because we're both thinking the same thing and we can't say it.
And we often do to each other as we look and say, who are these people that are selling out arenas and that are the new age talent and the new digital music, and the fact that all of that is taking over not only mainstream, but it's taking over what used to be Vegas and showrooms and theaters, and now it's all young kids and clubs and at all the hotel properties. It's quite a bit of a different world, and sure you say, what the heck am I still doing here?
Well, I think you know the answer to that.
Yeah,
I mean, with Diana and Smokey and all the other artists you work with.
We keep on doing what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I got to tell you, it's about 1:50 right now, and typically on a Friday, Rob's sitting by the pool at this point at his Palm Springs home. So that's also the benefits of being in the job as long as he's been in it.
This is true.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Rob, well, we're out of time, and we really, really appreciate you coming on. A fascinating conversation with you.
Enjoyed it, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, you're listening to the Gazette Radio Hour with Doug and John, with Chris Burke filling in today, and can't talk today.
No, you really can't.
At Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS, and we'll be right back.